Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Market Down Podcast. My name is Santa Claus, joined this week by Head Elf James Sasanti, recapping AEW Dynamite Holiday Bash. And obviously, I am not in my usual place. I'm up at my workshop. So forgive me if things seem a little off or weird on my end. I do apologize in advance. Let us start, however, with the main event, which saw
Main
AEW
event, tag team champions of NEW. No, not NEW, HOG, House of Glory.
I was about to say, not NEW. Yes, our friends from main event did win the House of Glory tag team titles this weekend over the Briscoe brothers, I believe. So congratulations to them. Go check out our interview with Jay Lyon from, I think that was last year at this point. It was really cool. We learned a lot about wrestling from him in terms of like coming up and stuff like that. And yeah, it was awesome. I hope you guys saw it on our Instagram page. But as I was saying, the main event of the show saw Jamie Hayter versus Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's World Championship match. And this was a banger. And I mean that literally, because these girls just kicked the shit out of each other for about 20 minutes. And it was great. And the match literally started with just both women raining down haymakers on each other until Shida was finally able to gain control as they headed into commercial. And then during the break, Hayter basically hit a snake eyes on Shida and took control and just kicked the shit out of her outside the ring for most of the commercial break. Eventually, Hayter went out to the apron after Shida was able to get some offense in and battled back. Shida followed her over there and tried to suplex her back in. But Jamie countered with, as Excalibur called it, he called it like a snapmare over the top rope. And thank God Shida held on, because that looked like it fucking hurt. And she probably would have bounced her ass onto the floor. So well done by them, because that looked dangerous as hell. Hayter then tried to suplex Shida onto the floor, but Shida blocked it. And then she sent Hayter into the ring post and hit a suplex of her own onto the floor, which was really cool. Then coming out of the second commercial, this is where things really heated up. Hayter threw Shida off the top rope, went for a moonsault and missed. Shida hit the running knee, but Hayter kicked out. And then Shida went to go for a katana, but Hayter just straight up collapses. So Hayter actually did that to sucker Shida in, countered Shida, hit a sliding lariat, and Shida kicked out. Then both women had a phenomenal sequence where they kept going for their finishers. Both of them kept countering and kicking out. And actually, no, neither of them hit it, excuse me. But it was just counter after counter after counter after counter. It was awesome. Eventually, Shida hit a suplex to break that up and gain a little bit of advantage. And this is where Britt and Rebel jumped onto the apron, as they are wont to do. Rebel distracted the referee. Britt went after Shida with her kendo stick. But Shida was able to fend off Britt, drive her out of the ring, and hit Britt with a nasty kendo shot, and then went after Hayter. Hayter then ducked a katana attempt again, hit a massive running lariat, and Shida kicked out again. Hayter picks her up, finally hits a Hayter raid, collapses into the pin, 1, 2, 3, and defends her title. After the match, Britt and Rebel jump into the ring, and they jump Shida when Toni Storm, who according to commentary isn't cleared, she comes in for the save and takes out Britt. Hayter hit Toni from behind with the title, and then Britt and Rebel, excuse me, not Reba, held Toni there for Hayter to hit her again with the title, this time in the face, because I believe her Toni's injury was face related. I don't remember if it was her nose or her eye or something. I think it was her nose. But anyway, then Saraya's music hit. She comes down to the ring and clears all the bad guys out. And that's where we ended the show. So, James, like I said at the top, this match was awesome. It was really hard hitting. The crowd really got into it, especially towards the end there with all those amazing false finishes. And like I said, that unbelievable sequence where they just kept countering each other's finisher attempts. This was not only worthy of a main event, but I think this was another great showing by the women, and finally one that we've gotten on TV, where hopefully Tony Khan will be like, you know what, maybe I should start featuring them a little bit more. But let's not get
That's crazy talk. That's crazy talk. Come on. This was our Christmas gift for the next 5 years that we got this.
Hey, we gave you guys that one really good Dynamite match. What do you need more for? You saw the women do well.
I very much enjoyed the match. It wasn't a gimmicky thing. It wasn't a come, hey, look at us thing. It was very low key. this match was the main event because it was a title match, which I love. And it could have been middle of the card in another company, you know? So I was very happy with how this played out. I said to you before we started recording that I almost didn't need the Saraya and Toni Storm of it all. I would have just been happy if it was the women having their match and that's how it ended. But there is something to the big fight feel of it when you have all these stars involved in the segment. Now, granted, you could make an argument that you could spread the women out throughout the rest of the show as opposed to just jamming it all in one spot.
Which they always do. But
which they always do. But honestly, if you're going to do that, the main event's not the worst place to be.
Yeah, I was going to say there wasn't really too much of the women outside of the main event on this show, which is unfortunate. Like, I would like to see at least a promo package or two. I know we did get a promo package for this match earlier in the show, but like, you know, there are other feuds. What's Jade Cargill up to? She is one of your champions. I know they can't be on every show, but
she's the TBS champion on TNT. You got to remember that.
Yeah, exactly.
So like that. Rampage only.
Yeah, I would like to see more women's, you know, segments in the show. But yeah, like you said, if you are going to push everybody into one 20-minute segment as they usually do, and usually it's only like a 10-minute segment, at least it's the main event, and you are still driving the story a bit more of Saraya and Britt meeting at this mysterious tag match in a few weeks.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like we're always singing Sheeta's praises too, and I'm very happy that she's getting her love.
I'll never stop singing her praises.
Absolutely. She deserves it. She deserves it. She was one of the unsung heroes of the pandemic era, in my opinion.
Yeah, which they were really driving home on commentary today. Like,
and I'm glad. I'm very glad. She deserves her roses. You know?
She definitely does.
She's got 2 championships from other companies, which we could debate whether or not we want to see those championships on TV, but regardless, she's a champion of other companies. She's a former champion in this company. She should be treated like a former champion. And even if she doesn't win the big one again, ever or for a while, I'm happy to see her regularly featured.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she had that title match, I think it was 2 Fridays ago on Rampage, where she defended one of those 2 titles against the Bunny. And that set up this match as well. So, you know, something like that, I don't mind seeing that type of title on TV. But I think this is definitely it's a phenomenal showing from her. Clearly, she looked fantastic. And I mean, look how many huge strikes it took from Hayter to finally take her out. You know, it's like she was very well protected. And this is a great win for Hayter too. Like you said, Sheeta is a former champion. She has 2 other title belts. Like, and I'm pretty sure I know Taz said this was her first defense. I think it is. So
is it?
I can't think of any other time.
I guess it would have to be. I guess it would have to be, which is shocking. They usually give their champions a pretty fast defense after they win.
Yeah. So
cool.
She's been in other matches, but I think this is her first defense. And your first defense coming against Sheeta and an absolute banger like this, I know you're going to be a little hard pressed to figure out what to do next, how to follow that up, but I think this is a phenomenal start to her title reign. So
I agree. I will say I admit this is a little bit of a nitpick, little bit, tiny bit. I'm not used to in AEW seeing so many finisher kickouts or so many big spot kickouts. That's usually a WWE thing where you see finishers get kicked out of regularly, or those big spots. In AEW and a lot of the time in like especially Japan, you see them fighting out of finishes as opposed to actually getting hit with multiple finishes. And this is the second time now with Jamie that they did it, because in Toni Storm's match where she won the title from Toni, I commented even then how much it took to put Toni Storm down. And now they did it again here with Sheeta. I get wanting to make her look strong and wanting to protect her, but there is an aspect of the dynamic of how these matches are going. And I don't know, like I said, it's just a nitpick. It's not a big deal, but I'm interested to see if this is going to be the formula for Toni Storm's matches in general.
Oh, well, okay, but and I assume you mean Jamie Hayter's matches in general, but
did I say Toni?
Yeah,
my bad, guys.
But like she didn't hit multiple finishers. I mean, I guess she hit a couple of signatures, but her finisher is the Hayter rate. You know, it's the Rainmaker, as it were. You know, so she only hit that once. The other two shots were huge shots, and but they were both running lariats. Like they weren't, or there was a sliding lariat and a running lariat. So they weren't. They were signatures, I guess, but they weren't finishers.
Yeah.
So I would disagree with your point there, at least.
And that's a fair point. That is a fair counter.
Yeah.
But
But and I don't think that all of her matches, Hayter that is, are going to be like that, where she's going to have to hit a bunch of huge shots to take everybody down. I just think she is at a certain power level where I think she deserves that respect in terms of booking, in the finish there. So I'm cool with it. I'm definitely cool with it. All right, let's go back up to the top of the show, which we saw Ricky Starks come out for a promo after his loss last week to MJF, where he unfortunately fell victim to, the old dick kick. I'm just so sick of in this company. Fucking, we've been good for a while because unfortunately Adam Cole is out, but that was his move for a long time, and we were okay. And now MJF has decided to take it up. So, whatever.
Admittedly, it works better with MJF than it does with Adam Cole.
Yeah,
but I agree. I'm not thrilled with it either.
All right. Well, anyway. So Ricky mentions the fact that despite the fact that he may have lost, he at least did it with dignity, unlike MJF, who has none. And then after Ricky finishes saying that he's going to work his way back up to a title shot, Jericho's music hits, and then he comes out with Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia. Jericho says that Ricky is $1 million talent and a future world champion, but he's not quite there yet, and offers his influence and advice to help Ricky get over the top by offering him an opportunity to join the JAS. And Ricky is still on a fucking heater right now because he came back and destroyed Jericho. Ricky actually starts by returning some of the compliments that Jericho gave him, saying that Jericho is a master of innovation, turning himself from an air fryer a few months ago into being lean and shredded. And now he looks like a father on his fifth divorce, which Ricky is very much for. Ricky then outright refuses to join the JAS, saying he won't join Jericho, the clout vampire, and the jazz holes, and said that the J and JAS stands for jobbers after Jericho lost to Action Andretti last week. Ricky then challenges Jericho to a match on January 4th, which I think is just the first match of the new year. The first Dynamite of the new year. And Jericho responds that Ricky made the wrong decision. And then Hager appears from behind and jumps Ricky. Garcia and Guevara join in as Jericho saunters his way down to the ring. And then Action Andretti himself comes out for the save. Andretti comes out, takes out Jericho almost immediately, blow bridges Hager to get him out of the ring. And then he and Starks take out Sammy and Garcia. Andretti then hits Jericho with the split-legged moonsault before Hager drags Jericho out of the ring, and the dust is settled. So, James, obviously, Ricky, like I said, still on a fucking heater, still out here just absolutely cooking motherfuckers. We get more from Action Andretti and his interaction with Jericho, where he just seems to have Jericho's number in the ring, at least. And I don't know if we're getting a full-blown Ricky JS feud, but I think that's a pretty, as long as it doesn't go for a year, it's a pretty decent lateral move from fighting to the title to fighting with Chris Jericho.
Arguably, this is a step up for Ricky, because even though MJF is the world champion, MJF is one of the hottest commodities in the company. Jericho is a name that gets attention. Jericho is a name that gets views and people are familiar with. So a whole new brand of people are going to be seeing Ricky Starks for the first time. People who might not just watch AEW, but are Jericho fans. Weird concept, but it's a thing. So I'm all in for Ricky having this feud. I'm right there with you. I hope it doesn't last forever. I hope this is like a month or 2 months tops. God, the fact that I'm willing to settle for a 2-month feud with Jericho is scary.
I mean, it might only be 2 weeks, depending on, because did Jericho accept Ricky's challenge?
I believe so.
Okay, so then maybe it's just this match on.
I mean,
on the
they
4th.
hinted at this feud last week when Jericho specifically brought up Ricky Starks. So this is very clearly something that they've been cooking up for a little while, or at the very least, last week is when the official seeds were planted. So I don't know how long it'll last, but I'm just gearing up for something long. But just checking the chat, checking the comments.
Yeah, Danny is on fire in there.
Really
So
is.
Danny, we know you're sick and we hope you feel better. We will do our best to try to go with what you're saying, but you are just in there like crazy. So
and I agree with a lot of what Danny's saying. Ricky feels more main event beating Jericho potentially than he did losing to MJF. I completely agree on that point. I think
yeah, it's a big win for him. And honestly, I think there's a very good chance that Ricky wins on the 4th because we're in this bit of a Jericho's on the backslide thing here on his, in a downfall. So
and even if it's because Action Andretti gets involved or whatever, I don't know. Maybe he beats him clean on his own. I think we have a good shot at it, and I think that's going to really blow Ricky open. And
I think Andretti at least gets involved to take out the some member of the JAS out on the outside. I think Ricky beats him clean because I just think that's way better for Ricky.
So. I admit I'm very excited for this Action Andretti stuff. I talked about it last week. I love when you have like this shot in the arm with new talent getting pushed into a big spot. I think it really shakes up your roster. I gotta admit though, every time I see Action in the ring, it feels like he's moving in slow motion to me. It feels like things aren't as crisp as they should be. And I don't know if I'm just being a hater, I'm not a Jamie hater, but like I think he might need a little more time in the oven to develop a little bit more, because this is a high profile feud. And it's not like last week was a one-off. He's clearly still involved. This feud with him is going to continue. After we talk about the match, I think we should talk about the segment after.
Yeah. Of course.
And this is a big high profile thing for a guy who still feels, in my opinion, very green. So this is definitely a sink or swim situation, and I'm rooting for him to swim. But so far, I'm a little nervous, just a little nervous.
Yeah, I can feel that. Like you said, like it did feel a little slow when he was wrestling last week. Like, and I don't know if that was maybe just because he was playing into the character of being somebody so green and new. He was like, wait, holy shit, I'm winning. I was like, oh, okay, now I got to do the split leg of moonsault. Oh, okay, I got to do, the running shooting star press. Like, just the fact that he was in that moment where he was just taking an extra beat to try to process everything, almost like, Zach Wilson trying to play football. Everything's moving so quickly at that level. You're just like, oh, holy shit, I got to do this. And he just got lucky. But if it is, in fact, that he just is that, just has that pacing, then that's something they can improve. But you're right. Like, when you're being thrust into this position, I almost feel like you should have somebody that is main event ready, at least wrestling wise, So, and I'm not saying the kid's not. I genuinely have no idea. We've seen one match at him, and it was with Jericho, who can be a little difficult to wrestle because he's 50.
He did. I looked into him a little bit after his match last week. He did wrestle for AEW for some dark segments. And in fact, it was his appearance on Dark that impressed Jericho so much a few months back that he handpicked him for this storyline in this feud backstage with Tony Khan.
Cool.
So he's impressing the right people, which is good.
Yeah, and like I said, he is impressive. Like, he didn't fuck up last week. He didn't fuck up this week. He's hitting really cool, explosive, exciting moves. I think this is a guy that is very, very, he fits the situation very well.
I agree. I just want to answer Danny's question in the comments. Do we think this is just another case of Jericho latching onto the latest white hot person?
In Ricky or in Andretti? In Ricky. I was assuming Ricky, yeah.
In Ricky. To a degree, probably. But I think the reality is Jericho does like putting guys over. He put Action Andretti over last week. And it's not like Action was hot before him. He's only hot because he lost to Jericho. He only exists right now because he beat Jericho. Not lost to Jericho, beat Jericho. I don't know what the case is with Ricky, but I think it's a little bit of a symbiotic thing. Jericho gets to stay in a hot feud, and Ricky is going to get a rub from this. So even if Jericho does have some selfish motivations, It's win-win in my opinion, unless this goes for too long and we get tired of it.
Yeah. Well, like Ricky said, he's a clout vampire. Anytime somebody gets hot, he needs to suck it. What's the thing from What We Do in the Shadows? The energy vampire. Yeah, he's like that, but with clout. Exactly. It was such a good line. Ricky has so many good lines, you almost miss them sometimes. I'm sure I missed a bunch of them in the recap, but he is phenomenal at them, and that's why I absolutely love his promos.
And I really want Jasshole to hold on for a bit.
Yeah. And Ricky has been doing a really good job at getting people to chant things, which is something, honestly, Jericho has always been great at.
Absolutely.
So it's just another thing in his arsenal. Fuck what Vince Russo says.
Fuck Vince Russo.
Well, that too, but all right. And on that note, let's move on to the Elite versus Death Triangle match 5 in the best of 7. The Death Triangle obviously leading 3-1 coming into tonight, and this was a no DQ match. Now, a lot of shit happened in this match. So
I enjoyed this match. I would just like to put that out there before we get into it. I really, really enjoyed this match.
So did I. Obviously, completely different from the other ones, which is what we want when we get the best of 7.
Yep.
But like I said, there's a lot of shit that happens. So I'm just gonna hit some of the highlights. They might not be perfectly in order, and there's a couple of non sequiturs, but it'll work anyway. Note number 1 is that Nick's ankle was not 100% coming into this match, which is something they played on throughout the match. So we had Penta.
More importantly, Matt Jackson's lower back is still hurting him.
Oh, he's selling it again.
When commentary was talking about how banged up the Elite were, it was Nick's ankle, Kenny's upper back, and Matt Jackson's lower back.
Yep. Death taxes and Matt Jackson selling his lower back. All right. So early in the match with Penta trapped in the corner, the Elite were all hitting their splashes in the corner. And then they have Nakazawa come into the ring to hit one. And then they had Cutler, who was dressed like an elf, come into the ring to hit one. But Alex Abrahantes runs into the ring and stops Cutler, gives him the Zero Mierda. And then as Cutler looks like he's about to hit Alex, he sprays him with the cold spray. And then immediately just eats a Penta super kick. It was such a good spot. Also, freaking Cutler, I think he had like lights and ornaments in his beard, which is about down to his chest now. He was just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal, as is tradition. And then as we come back in the ring, keeping with the Christmas spirit, there's a tree in the ring. So there you go. Eventually, at some point, Nick went to a super kick, but he accidentally kicked a chair that was put between the turnbuckles, so he re-injured his ankle. Pac took advantage of it, going right after it, but then Kenny halts his momentum with the trash can after Kenny had earlier taken a trash can to the Yambag City, as Taz called it. So turnabout is fair play. Kenny then brings out the barbed wire broom, and holy flashbacks, Batman. Which,
right?
By the way,
my God,
I wrote that not knowing that you had that hat. So I literally wrote holy flashbacks, Batman. And then he just fucked Phoenix up with it, just completely ruined him. The Bucks take out Pac and Penta with top rope table spots to the outside. Then Kenny hits a Tiger Driver 98 onto the broom. Phoenix ends up kicking out of that. The Elite then go for the BTE trigger, but Kenny was grabbed by Alex Abrahantes and pulled out of the ring, which screws up all the timing, so the Bucks end up clashing their knees. Kenny eventually later gets Phoenix up for a one-winged angel, but Ray reverses it into absolutely nasty Poison Rana, which Kenny kicks out of. Alex then tosses the hammer to Phoenix, who looks at it, goes, oh, well, it's no DQ. I can use this now, and proceeds to hit Kenny in the head with it, but Kenny kicks out of that as well. Pat comes in, puts Kenny in the brutalizer, and Phoenix puts Nick into an ankle lock, and eventually Matt is able to fight off Penta and break all of that up. Then all 3 members of Death Triangle grab a hammer to attack Kenny. Nick and Matt pull Penta and Pac out of the ring and take them out on the outside. Then the Bucks hit, was it a Meltzer driver? I can never tell the difference.
So, no, that would be, did he flip or did he not flip?
I think he flipped.
If he flips, it's a Meltzer driver. If he doesn't flip, it's an indie taker.
Might have been an indie taker. I can't remember. It was one of the two.
And either way, he did it from the top rope. He didn't do it from he didn't bounce.
Yes, because of his ankle. And either way, it must have been an indie taker because there's no way he was doing it on like 1 foot.
Yeah.
So, and he didn't bounce, like you said. So, it was also onto a chair. So anyway, that ends the match, and the Bucks end up picking up the pin and the win. Afterwards, Pac and Penta beat the ever living fuck out of the Elite with the hammers and just completely bloody up both of the Bucks. It was pretty nasty. But like we said at the top, this match is awesome. It is now 3-2 series, giving the Bucks a bit of hope. They mentioned the Cavs Warriors series on commentary.
They had to. There's a certain point where the meme just becomes too big, and you want to get ahead of it.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure like they were doing that. Plus, corporate synergy. TNT's got the NBA on every Tuesday and Thursday, so they're cool with that. Shaq's been on the show. They've gone over to NBA inside the NBA and stuff. So it works. They have the right. They could talk about it all they want. So it ends either way. This match was awesome. Like I said earlier, completely different than the other ones, and just a really good, well-rounded, solid no DQ match.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were saying to me. I completely agree. I've been loving this best of 7. I know not everybody is. Am I muted?
No, Danny is going to power through.
No way.
It appears he has had enough of us ignoring him in the chat that Danny is going to power through his illness to bitch and complain about us not getting anything right.
Danny is the truth. Oh no, he's just here to shit on Kenny and the Elite. I don't need this. Get him out of here.
Oh man. Hey guys, thanks for waiting. Oh man. What was the last thing you said? I heard up until you were breaking down the match, Rev, and that's when I turned on my computer.
Well, I believe the last thing I mentioned was that I thought this was a very good, well-rounded, solid no DQ match.
Oh, I agree up until like the last 2 minutes. I thought this match was fantastic.
All the stuff with the hammers and everything.
And then Phoenix fucking kicks out of a Tiger Driver on barbed wire broom. Get the fuck out of here, bro.
Well, he's got the mask on. It helps protect his head.
One of the things I wanted to compliment
from the barbed wire.
I wanted to compliment this series so far because it hasn't just been finisher win. It's been, counter win, cheat win. There's been logic to it, and this match throughout all the praise I had for the series, because it's like, now we're just gonna kick out of things to end the match, and then I'm gonna go up top on the top rope, selling my fucking ankle injury, doing it with 1 foot, and then still flip. You don't need to flip. Pile driving the guy's head onto a chair is enough.
I guess it was a Meltzer driver.
He did flip him.
I couldn't remember if it was an indie taker or a Meltzer driver. That answers that.
That shit annoyed me so much. But the match was fantastic other than that. Just those 2 things, kicking out of... And the hammer shot too, actually. Don't kick out. Just have someone break up the pin. Other than that, fantastic match. I'll say that.
All right, cool. James, any counters or other thoughts?
I agree with Danny's points. I like that this series hasn't just been finisher ends the match kind of thing. There's been a psychology, there's been storytelling to the set. And this, I think this one ending with a more traditional finish isn't the biggest deal. I like the finish, especially because the rest of the match was different enough from the rest of the series that if you go with a more traditional finish, it's not going to feel cheap or lazy. I admittedly, I just want to see a one-winged angel super bad at this point. It's been way too long.
It's got to be if the Bucks end up winning the series, and the Bucks and Kenny, obviously, if they end up winning the series, it's got to be with them with the one-winged angel, right? That's how they win Game 7.
It's a ladder match, so I don't think you can.
Oh yeah, okay, fair. That's true. But I guess like Kenny hits it, and then they climb the ladder and win.
I think hit it from the top rope. Let him hit it from the top of a ladder.
Has he done that before?
I don't know, but it's a safe move.
I know, but things can happen when you're falling.
True. He hit that one-wing angel off of like whatever that piece of prop backstage was in Sammy Guevara in the
in the Stadium Stampede.
Yeah. Oh, that was a cool one.
Yeah, really that was pretty high up. I know there was an airbag under that and everything, but
Yeah.
It was still a long distance, and
Exactly. I very much enjoyed the match. I am all for putting all 3 trios titles on Cutler, Nakazawa, and Alex Abrahantes. I think they're the true winners of this series and of this match at the very least. Good showing. I'm looking forward to next week because next week's gonna have another dynamic because I think it's a falls count anywhere, right?
yes, it is.
So they're gonna get pretty wild with where they go next week.
So I've been shitting on the Elite a lot, mostly for fun, but and I've been shitting on the Lucha Bros for what feels like almost a calendar year at this point. But this feud has made me remember why I loved Death Triangle when they first formed. And it's made me not think about the Lucha Bros as the Lucha Bros, but to think of them as 2/3 of Death Triangle, who I think is great. And which is why I also just want them to win genuinely, because I've found more of a reconnection for them. And I just rather the Bucks and Kenny do other things. I'd rather Kenny chase MJF for a little bit and have all the top guys try and fail to beat MJF. I'd rather the Bucks put over the Acclaimed, like, not like they should have done 3 years ago because it's the Acclaim weren't anyone yet, but like, you know, I would like to see that. That was their first feud in AEW. I'd like to see them beat the Bucks before they lose the title, since, you know, FTR is not challenging anytime soon because they're fucking losers. We'll get to that, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, literally, they've lost a lot.
3 straight.
So I like, this has been a great series. Unlike Chad, I'm actually not sick of them wrestling all the time. I don't like how the extreme versions of these matches have set the precedents for all the nonsense and
That's
kicking out of things that shouldn't be kicked out of.
I think that's fair. I do think that's fair. By that, are we specifically talking like the hammer to the head?
And the Tiger Driver on the barbed wire. I think that's, you shouldn't kick out of that.
While I do agree with you, I can't necessarily blame these 6 guys because that feels like a spot that would happen a lot in AEW in general.
Just break it up. Just break up the pin. You don't have to end the match.
Fair.
Break up
That's
the
actually
pin.
a fair point. I do agree with that. I do agree with you on that.
Yeah, there are ways around that, obviously.
Yeah.
So.
But I did like the callback to Kenny kicking out of the hammer to the head, even though it's silly, but I did like it because it was a nice callback to the first match, which is how they lost in the first place. Going back to the beatdown at the end, though, I thought that was pretty heavy. That
was vicious.
It was vicious, and it was a lot of interesting character development in that for me in subtle ways, because Pac did it, but Penta was leading the charge in it, which was surprising to me. I would have expected it to be Pac. And then you see Phoenix pulling his brother away several times.
Yeah, and Phoenix was down in the corner for a decent chunk of it too, because he ate the Meltzer driver to the chair. Yeah. And Alex was trying to help him recover. And then when he came to, he was like, what the fuck? And then him and Alex were like trying to grab him back. And Penta kept going back. Like the refs pulled him off like 4 or 5 times, even after we thought it was over and they were going to the next segment. He freaking went after them again, and they had to hold the segment for another like 20 seconds.
I also like little character things too, where you see Matt going to protect his brother, and then Kenny going to protect the Bucks too by trying to get in the shots. But it didn't matter because Penta went straight for Nick anyway afterwards. But it was I like a lot of what happened after the match, and I'm very excited to see what happens in match 6 next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. All right, let's move on. Next, we had a MJF promo from last week after he ran away from Bryan Danielson, calling out Bryan for stealing his moment after his first title defense, calling him a coward, stuff like that. And then after commercial break, we had a backstage interview with Action Andretti. Andretti talks about how his life has been changed after his win last week, and that he knew the JAS would find somebody to take their frustrations out on. So he stayed ready and then was out to have Ricky Starks back. Then Cool Hand Ange and Daddy Magic come over for a taste, saying that Andretti's been on fire lately. And then Andretti turns around and eats a fireball to the face from Chris Jericho, who then literally just rubs his face into the ground.
I was so upset because I've been waiting to hear Jericho yell out that he's a wizard again.
And he didn't
it
do
just,
it.
It felt so incomplete. It felt so incomplete of a moment. How do you shoot a fireball and not exclaim you're a wizard?
That's a good question. I've
Felt
never shot a
cheap,
fireball,
felt
so
lazy.
I don't know. I can't answer that
You're
question.
missing out.
You shot a fireball?
I've done a lot of things.
I've done shots of fireball, but that seems very different.
that was good. You're clever.
Thank you.
I feel like I was going to criticize him for not saying it because I was like, why hasn't he said that yet? Like, I was actually waiting for that. So I would say you were late. Better late than never, though. So it's fine.
It's all about timing. After that, we had an in-ring interview with Bryan Danielson and Renee Paquette. Renee asked Bryan where Regal's departure leaves him and the BBC. Bryan then basically ignores the question for a while and talks about his start as a wrestler, wrestling in Texas and getting a nice big HBK pop and everything. And then he talks about how when he finally met Regal, Regal helped him turn into the man and wrestler he is today. And that Regal taught him that there are consequences to your actions. Then he says that MJF needs to find out the consequences of his actions for going after Regal, and Bryan calls him out. So instead of MJF coming out, we get Stokely and Ethan Page. Hooray. Page begins questioning why Bryan is getting a shot at MJF when he was in the top 2 in both the number 1 contender tournament and the Dynamite Diamond Ring Battle Royal. And then Stokely just starts rattling off some nonsense about Bryan being vegan and like trying to make fun of him or whatever. And then Bryan
vegetable man.
Well, Ethan called him vegetable man.
Yeah.
Then Stokely just kind of ran with that. And
Raggedy bitch.
Bryan responded by saying he couldn't hear anything because of the glare off of Stokely's head and the crowd politely telling Ethan Page to shut the fuck up. Stokely then went into a rage and, like James said, started calling Bryan a raggedy bitch before Page lowered the mic away from his face, which was very subtly well done by the both of them.
You raggedy bitch. That was quite possibly the funniest moment in wrestling, and that isn't Sami Zayn related in a long time.
We've been shitting on Stokely for a while here, and we've been trying
justifiably, I'd say.
We've been like, okay, where's the Stokely we saw on Diamond Mine? Like, we know this guy can be better, but he's had a couple of meme-worthy moments, like the one with the promo package after he screwed MJF, and I forget, he made a dick joke or something in it, and it was hilarious, and it went viral. Now he's got this raggedy bitch line. He can do really funny, subtle, meme things, but when he starts trying to be serious and stuff, it just doesn't hit right. It's so weird. Anyway, after the raggedy bitch stuff, Ethan Page then says that he called Bryan Vegetable Man because going to beat him until he's a vegetable. Very clever. Bryan's like, okay, you want to try? Let's do it now. And Page says that they'll do it next week because while he's willing to pop the top, he doesn't want to take his pants off. And then we saw that MJF was watching in the back, too afraid to come out. So this is a decent promo. I mean, it's fine. We set up a match for next week. We keep MJF and Bryan away from each other a little longer. But other than that, this wasn't the best ever. Although we did see Bryan working the crowd. I feel like not the first time since he's been back, but at least more in the sense that he was working them as a face.
I agree. I like that.
He's like, do you want to see this, San Antonio? Let's go. We haven't heard that from him in a while.
If he's not going to be a full-on heel, I don't need him to be a tweener.
Yeah.
There are lots of guys who are great tweeners. Bryan Danielson can either be the best heel on your roster or he could be the most beloved babyface. He does not need to be riding the line in the middle. So I would like to see him transition into a more full-on steady babyface. But even if they do baby steps, that's fine with me. I want to see him. I'm glad they're acknowledging again his distance from the BCC. I hope it's something that gets resolved pretty quickly. And you know what? If it's going to be the BCC versus the Firm, I know we don't really want to see the Firm in anything, but I'm totally okay with the BCC getting a major win and just a dominant display. Just we've seen in WWE Daniel Bryan making Big Cass tap out 2 weeks in a row. I am okay with Bryan Danielson making Big Bill Morrissey tap out as many times as they want. I'm sorry, Nick. I didn't mean to.
It's not you. I'm going to roll my eyes every time I hear that name or say that name. It's ridiculous. I don't know where they came up with that. Like, at least as his like actual name. Like, call him William Morrissey or William Big Bill Morrissey. That's fine. You can't just go around calling a guy Big Bill. He sounds like a Sesame Street character.
Doesn't he sound like Little Bill's dad in that case?
I was going for Big Bird, but yeah, like either way, it just sounds bad. It doesn't sound menacing for a guy who's over 7 feet tall and is supposed to be kicking the shit out. Yeah, and kicking the shit out of people. Like, I'm not afraid of Big Bill. I'm sorry, I'm just not. He sounds like a bird.
I'm 5'8". I'm afraid of Big Bill.
I'm not. If you told me, oh, like, hey, Big Bill's coming through, I'd be like, okay, cool. Like, or is he bringing beer? I'm not thinking, oh shit, I'm gonna get my fucking ass handed to me.
Well, I hope you don't find yourself in that position. But regardless, yeah, this was a nice spot. I agree. I like that they're keeping Bryan away from MJF a little bit because let it simmer. You know, I don't need Bryan to lose to MJF so quickly. You know, let the feud go for a while. And more than anything, I will just always love Bryan Danielson being in the same segment as Renee.
That's true.
Give me my virile
talking smack.
Bryan. Yeah.
Good old talking smack.
But on tout, specifically on tout.
Yeah. Well, that's Smacking Talk. That's the other show.
True. You're right.
I also like this because it, like you said, it keeps MJF away from Bryan and vice versa. But also, too, like, we're not going to see MJF wrestle for a while, Danny. So this is another step to doing it because they use him on purpose so infrequently in the ring that you got to kind of figure out ways to, like, build a feud while not having these guys actually wrestle.
So I've been sick for a few days now. You know, probably since like Sunday-ish, you know.
That sucks.
And I'd go through it for another 5 weeks if it meant the firm was never on TV again.
Jesus Christ.
I would do that for everyone. I'd be a fucking martyr. But yeah, sure, Raggedy Bitch was funny. I'm not gonna pretend it's not. That's as much credit as I can give the guy. Because, man, just talk about letting all the air out of the balloon. Like, Bryan being a face, not being a tweener, like James said, you know, just having the crowd behind him, having character motivation. The idea of Bryan MJF sounds fantastic if, you know, Bryan hadn't lost every match he's had in the past 6 months. But, you know, if that wasn't the case, this would be fucking amazing. And then the firm come out. The firm are somehow still muddying up MJF's story somehow.
I agree. It's really weird. It's really weird that they're keeping them connected.
And, you know, whatever, they're heels. So, like, you could say that Ethan's logic made no sense because he kept saying, lost. Well, I was second. Yeah, you lost. You were explaining how you lost these matches to us and matches that Bryan wasn't in. So, you know, I think you actually explained it pretty well while he's cutting you in line because it's not cutting. You're in the back of the line. And he was in the back of the line when you were near the front. So that's how that works. But also, all Ethan Page did in this promo was yell. He didn't say anything of substance. He didn't say anything bad, but he just said words. He just yelled words because the crowd, to his credit, they got heat and the crowd was booing them. You know, so I guess
he is a
that
heat
works.
magnet.
He is.
He steps out, he gets booed.
I don't think he has go away heat either.
No.
I don't think they're booing him to go away. I think they're just he's gotten a way of getting under the crowd's skin.
Because he's a
not
massive
in a way
douchebag.
where they want to see him get beat up more than just in the moment.
Yeah.
Like, they should have just had this match tonight because there was no point in dragging it out for a week because most of that heat's going to be gone and people just aren't going to care. And having, let's say this main event somehow, having Ethan Page main event at Dynamite sounds like I'm going to bed early next Wednesday. But I don't know. I just don't think the firm makes any, like, that's always my go-to, all kidding around aside. I don't think they make anything better. So what are they doing out here if they're not making things better?
The worst part is I genuinely think the firm have a lot of ingredients to be successful.
Yeah, there's a
think-
lot of talented guys in that group.
Yeah, Morrissey is a guy, if you wanted to make the firm around him, I get it. Ethan Page has the potential to be a guy that you could build around, but they've just muddied him up so much at this point. He needs like a hard reset. Moriarty, he's the young guy with potential. And then the Ass Boys are the Daddy Magic and Cool Hand of this group. You know, like they're there to take losses. They're there to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, let me rephrase what you just said. Actually, I think I can put it slightly better. The Ass Boys are the only one in the group with any potential. Actually. Big Bill is nothing without Enzo, who could easily just come into the company and ruin MJF's career just like that.
Apparently.
And look, all joking around aside, I do think it would be an amazing promo battle back and forth. I would love to see. Just if you pretend the guy's not a douchebag, which I have no problem doing because he's, in wrestling, he's very charming. So just ignore the outside stuff. But, that aside, Big Bill's just another big guy. I don't care. I don't dislike him, but I just feel nothing. Ethan Page is like a not as good Ricky Starks, who is as good but not as pushed MJF, who, it's just, he is a good guy, but there's just guys who are better at the niche he fills, and it's not even a niche that he fills, but the role that he would fill.
The mid-card heel.
Lee Moriarty is falling behind guys like Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia, who are beloved by everyone on the Mark It Down podcast, even whether they're on the show or not. And the Ass Boys are the one with potential because they at least have characters, and they're, like their shtick makes sense. As much as they shouldn't be on TV as much as they are, they have something. They have a dad who's famous, at least. There's something I'm not saying it's right for them to be on TV so much, but they're the little potentials. And then you compare it to what's the other group? The Slapnuts, is that their name?
Jeff Jarrett and the Slapnuts.
Yeah. You know what? They won me over a lot tonight. Okay, I'm gonna say that because I don't think we're gonna talk about that very long. But that was more charismatic than anything Stokely has done in his entire career in AEW, at least. So they're the worst of these groups. They're the worst faction in a company filled with factions. The Andrade family office is better. I don't even know who's in that faction right now.
Dead.
I don't even think Andrade is in that faction anymore. I think it's Roosh now.
They killed it.
Yeah, there you go. Still better than the firm.
Yeah, because like Matt Hardy and Private Party are running with the factory, or not the factory now, Jesus. But they're part of
the firm.
The firm, yeah, because they got they lost their contracts to them.
What about Butcher and Blade? Are Butcher and Blade still with Roosh? Because they're like a different, like they're in that trios thing this Friday.
They've been running with who's my God, Kip Sabian. And then they were actually in a 8-man tag, I think, on Friday with him and Trent Seven, and then they lost, and
they are they
turned on Trent
of tag teams in AEW. Oof.
Yeah. So, yeah, honestly, like the firm feels to me, and this is no disrespect to anybody, this like a more pushed factory, but like they're just they're higher on the card. But that they literally serve their jobs to like get heat and lose.
I don't know.
QT Marshall's better than all of them.
Oh, I love QT Marshall. Love him.
This conversation's giving me a headache.
I actually think it's the hat.
It is tight. I didn't realize when I bought it, it was a kid's size.
How could you not know?
You gotta try a hat on before you wear it.
Because like,
before you
so
buy
I
it.
bought this one and my girlfriend bought a Grogu one, and the Grogu one fits perfectly. And that is literally the hat of a baby. It's a baby's hat. But this is like, oh
Yeah,
God.
that's a hat for men. How could it not fit
His
you?
name's Batman, not Batboy. But anyway.
I'm not gonna lie, it's like right exactly my size. If it was any tighter, my head would be exploding.
Yep. So anyway.
Yeah, you know what? We've spent far too much time on this, so let's move on. So after the Bryan stuff, we then had Moxley backstage promo package where he asked Hangman when they're going to settle things in the ring, saying that he's tired of this whole accident narrative, being like, "What'd you guys think I was trying to do with that lariat?" Like, come on, I'm trying to knock him out, obviously. And then he also hyped up his match with Darius Martin later in the night. Then after commercial, we had a Samoa Joe promo where he wished everybody happy holidays, including Wardlow, because next week Joe will be ruining and destroying all of Wardlow's holiday cheer. Then we had Hook versus a guy named Exodus Prime, which I can only remember because his name is Exodus Prime. Hook just kicked his ass, won in like 30 seconds with a red rum. Then Stokely's back and he's on the screen. And he's talking shit as Big Bill and Lee Moriarty were kicking the shit out of Jungle Boy. And then Big Bill chokeslammed Jungle Boy into a dumpster. So I guess we're going to be continuing the alliance between Jungle Boy and Hook, which is cool.
Well, no, wait, hold on. Is it cool? Or should this be a cautionary tale for Hook to not get involved with Jungle Boy, because all he does is weigh down his more talented and potential-filled tag team partners? So now,
well, actually, we don't know what Hook's gonna do because, like Taz said, Hook does whatever the fuck he wants and he doesn't tell anybody.
I don't know why Hook is doing this
because he wants to.
And that's fair. That's fair.
That's what Taz said, because he wanted to.
It just doesn't make. I've never seen them interact before on screen. I don't know that they're friends backstage. I don't know anything here. And realistically, is this as much an alliance as it is Hook is just saving Jungle Boy? Because this is the second week in a row where Jungle Boy gets buoyed and Hook is like, okay, I guess I got to do something about it.
He didn't do anything this week, though. He's just like, well,
he shook his head disapprovingly. And for me, what I think he did was the equivalent of running. That is the fastest I've ever seen Hook go down the ramp, I think.
I agree. Yeah, I'm just saying, Hook, Jungle Boy is bad news, man. He ruins all of his partners. He tries to hold them down.
You were gonna say he betrayed
on their
Luchasaurus.
shoulders.
You were.
I mean, he did. He betrayed Luchasaurus.
How?
What do you mean how?
Because he was such a dick to Luchasaurus, like, for so long that Luchasaurus eventually had to rise up against him. Like, he was just holding him down, man. You gotta fight the power.
Dude, you gotta understand how these things work, okay? Just because Luchasaurus attacked Jungle Boy first doesn't mean anything, because he was provoked for years. For years, he had to carry this fucking supposed adult on his shoulders.
Literally.
Are you kidding me?
He literally carried him on his shoulders.
This is absurd. God, I hope one day we get to interview Jungle Boy.
It's striking me too. We haven't seen Marco Stunt in years now.
It is sad.
Yep. It all comes back to Jungle Boy, doesn't it?
It does.
Especially after Christian brought him up. Like, I really want to know what happened to him. Like, what happened with that. It's
one maybe what he was saying, remember what happened to Marco? It's because of Jungle. God.
Yeah. It all adds up, man.
I'm stressed. I'm sad.
Look at who he's dating, one of the key members of the JAS. The only person with JAS in their name.
Anna. Jinx. Let's move on. After the Hook match, Hook was leaving while Moxley's music hit, which was interesting. I guess they just wanted to get it in before commercial.
Yeah, I think they were running low on time.
Yeah, was that or a timing issue because something ran long? Probably the Brian Page match because Page kind of keep yelling over the crowd. Or the first segment. Who knows? Anyway, it was John Moxley versus Darius Martin. Like I said earlier, Mox came out in the BCC jacket, which is really cool, with Claudio joining him. The early match was Moxley mostly just trying to keep Martin down, but Martin kept responding until Mox was able to push him off the top rope to the floor. Eventually, Darius mounted a bit of a comeback until he went for a crossbody and he got caught by Mox. Mox lays in the stomps and then the hammer and anvil elbows, and then he locks in a bulldog choke. Martin eventually works his way to a feet, but Mox transition, hits a Death Rider, 1, 2, 3, picks up the win. This match was weird. It was slow and kind of plodding, which I wasn't expecting with Darius Martin. And maybe it's just I'm so influenced by watching his brother wrestle, but I was expecting a little bit more high flying from him. And maybe this just, James, is like a styles make fights thing, and these guys just didn't have the chemistry, but it would just, I'm not gonna say it was bad, but it definitely wasn't good.
It didn't hit the gear that it had the potential to.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned just because I like Darius so much, and they clearly put in a good amount of time with Dante. And to Dante's credit, most of the time he's delivered in those situations. I think he got like sidetracked with a lot of people coming and going when it came to him.
You know, Leo Rush, the Seidel's, his brother getting hurt and coming back and getting in the car accident.
Yeah, that weird Team Taz thing too.
Yeah, like, that feud.
They never really knew what to do with him, but admittedly they did stuff with him. So I was happy to see that this match was happening, and I'm disappointed with how it actually did come about. But you know, we'll see if this was just, like you said, two styles not really meshing well, two guys who just don't have chemistry. But I will say this felt like it was meant to be more about Mox than it was Darius. You know, all those matches that I talked about with Dante, they were there to help because it was Dante's story. This is Mox's story, and Darius was just a body.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I was just expecting, like you said, Darius should just hit a gear at a certain point, at least a higher one. And he just never kind of did. And maybe, like I said, maybe he just doesn't have the same moveset and athleticism his brother does, which is understandable, especially coming out off all those injuries. But like, I was just expecting something more out of this, at least for him to, like, you know, get in some good high flying, exciting moves. And he was just completely grounded the entire match.
I'm not ready to write him off yet as the other brother, but his next single showing needs to be different than what we were getting now, or what we got tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just probably going to be on Dark, maybe Elevation. Danny, what'd you think about this?
Was this the last match before the main event?
No.
What was after this?
A lot. FTR on the guns, the whole Keith Lee swerve thing.
Okay.
It was a lot.
Yeah, there we go. Damn. Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. I was trying to catch up, and I fast forwarded through this match, so I didn't have opinions on it. But then I realized I haven't seen much of the rest of the show, so I'm probably just gonna head out, you guys, because I don't have much to add besides that. I'm glad Rick Ross was back.
Oh God, that was interesting.
Well, did you watch the main event?
No. I was about to watch it when you guys started streaming, so I just turned on the stream instead.
Oh, thank you.
Smart choice. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So
thanks
for the spoilers. But
well, I would watch the main event. It was very good. The Keith Lee Swerve Strickland Rick Ross thing was a shit show, so you probably enjoy that too.
Yeah, I saw that. I think a bunch of weird looking people came out, but I just want to tell a quick story, real quick, about how I got sick before I go. It'll take like 3 minutes at most. But so my friend Eddie got married this weekend.
Congratulations, Eddie.
Yeah, shout out Eddie. You know, we're at his wedding. I was there. Our loyal viewer Kevin and his brother Paulie were there. James was there, obviously, and you know, we were rapper Willie Gonza was there. Our occasional viewer Sully, or at least Instagram story commenter Sully, was at the after party. You know, so
quite the guest list.
Yeah. So it was a fun time, and we're drinking. You know, we had some shots of Patron. You know, and just we had a round of shots where it was all people from our neighborhood. You know, they were going in to take it. It was like Eddie, me, Kevin, Paulie, our friend AJ, a couple other, Eddie's sister, and a few other people who were all like grew up in the Morris Park area of the Bronx. Don't dox me.
You're
But we're going to take a round of shots, and James, who is like not from the Bronx really, he's from like this offshoot of the Bronx called City Island.
Not true.
Yeah, that's true, you're not from there, but he came up and he was like, you guys can't do this without me. We're like, well, this is kind of like a neighborhood round of shots, but we could always do another round of shots after, like that's totally fine. And then James was like, no, you don't understand. You guys can't do this without me. He's like, I'm like Robin Hood mixed with Robin Thicke. I steal from the bitch and give to the whore. And then he took half of all of our shots and it was like, here you go. And then we're like, all right. Like,
wait, so was I saying you guys were bitches and I'm a whore?
I mean,
how drunk were you that you don't remember this, James?
He only had 2 shots before that, so I don't know.
So hammered.
How that goes. But then I took half of all of our shots, and then kind of mixed them around like it was like you're trying to watch the ping pong ball and a red cup move around. But it didn't matter because it was all the same alcohol. So we were just like, okay, I guess we'll still have half of our shots. What could go wrong? And now I'm sick.
Now I imagine everyone's sick. James.
Wait, why am I the guy that got you sick? You don't know that it was me drinking from your shot that got you sick.
I mean, I didn't share a shot with anyone else.
I'm healthy. I wasn't sick. This is slander.
That's the part you take umbrage with, is the fact that you would have been sick. But yeah, so here we are. And I'm better than I was like 2 days ago. I was actually gonna try to sneak in a Raw review while sick because I thought it would be funny, but my throat hurt too much that day to
been there
to do it. So
well, we're glad you're feeling better.
Yeah.
Well, a little better.
I'm sure the Mets' recent dealings have made you feel a lot better.
No, get them out. We're done. We're done. Cut it out. I don't care.
I have mixed feelings,
I'm sure, but
I'm not over 2017, but I also want to win. So whatever. Enjoy your new captain, bro. Whatever. Anyway, bye. I love you
All
guys.
Right. Bye, Danny.
Love you, buddy.
Enjoy the holidays. All right. Thank you, Danny, for battling through the illness to join us for a while. Where were we?
All I know is every word of that story was probably not true. Probably. I don't think I was there.
All right. I know where we are now. Darius Martin just lost. All right. Yeah. So after that match, which like we said was meh at best, we had a quick promo package for a Hayter versus Sheeta title match later that night. And we came back from commercial with the next chapter in the Book of Hobbs vignette, which was short, but really good and really powerful, I thought. He was talking about his rough upbringing, where he witnessed the overdose death of his uncle at the age of 3. He had been beaten, robbed, and shot. And all of this was done by monsters who ended up creating a monster. So this was cool. I'm excited to see what they do next with Hobbs. Next, we had FTR versus the Guns. And honestly, I kind of wish Danny stayed. I wanted to hear what he had to say about this, but whatever. So FTR.
But he didn't even watch it. He didn't have anything to say.
He was already mad, so I just wanted to hear him rant for 5 minutes again.
That's fair.
Anyway, FTR is still seriously banged up from their match, their double dog collar match against the Briscoes a few weeks ago. Dax obviously more banged up than Cash. He had tape pretty much everywhere, whereas Cash only really had some on his arm. 2 quick notes from this match before they went to commercial break. One, they used the split screen when the action was separated on both sides of the ring, which I thought was cool, and I hope they do that more often as they start to tweak the show a bit, because I feel like we tend to miss things a lot, and if you go multiple angles at once, we can kind of see it all. And 2, Austin Gunn definitely learned to sell from Uncle Shawn Michaels, because his selling is hilarious. Anyway, FTR held control through most of the picture-in-picture. Then the Guns started to take it back when Coulter interfered with Dax trying to lock in his sharpshooter. Dax then gets sent into the stairs by Colton and re-injured his back. And Cash just like got sent into the barricade a fuck ton of times, and he ends up getting taken out of the match. So it's Dax versus Austin one-on-one. Austin goes for a famouser. Dax dodges it. He then gets Austin in a position for a pile driver, but his back gives out, so he's unable to hit it. Dax then goes for a roll-up. Austin reverses it, and he uses the ropes and Colton holding his arm to end up getting the pin on Dax. So, like I said earlier, this is now 3 losses in a row for FTR, like they mentioned on commentary. If you include the Ring of Honor loss, they seem to be, I don't want to say skidding a lot, but for FTR, this is a very rare occurrence.
I can genuinely say, all the years I've been following them, I don't know that they've ever lost 3 in a row on TV. I don't think they did, even when they were on the main roster and they weren't treated as the big deals that like we know they were.
Yeah.
But definitely never in NXT. Unheard of here in AEW for them. This is big. And I think they're definitely in line for a major story very soon. I think this is like the beginning of that major story for them, where we're going to see a shakeup for FTR and what that means. So, I mean, I don't think we're in danger of seeing them split up or anything. Like, I don't think
they would want to. Yeah,
me neither. I don't think that's something to be concerned about. But I think we're going to see. I don't know. Something is going to change with them, because this is, in terms of FTR, this is major. Because any other team losing 3 in a row, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, something's going on. But FTR is too hot a team to be losing 3 in a row on TV and pay-per-view.
Yeah, they're still really over as faces, because I was trying to think, as you said, like, okay, what's this major storyline going to be? And I was like, I don't think they're going to turn them back heel. They're still way too over. And I feel like they haven't been faces that long.
Yeah.
Especially after being heels pretty much since NXT.
Yeah, their entire careers, essentially.
Yeah, so this is the first time they've really, truly been faces, and they shifted organically. It was amazing how, like, just smooth that was. But I do see your point. Like, they have been kind of doing the same thing for the last few months, especially since they were weighed down, no pun intended, by having all of those titles, where I think you mentioned this in the group chat, they couldn't lose because other companies don't want them to lose while they're holding their titles. And I know Ring of Honor is the same shit, but point still stands. New Japan doesn't want their guys losing.
Yeah.
And I know AAA doesn't really give too much of a shit about the titles, but they're still representing the company.
Exactly.
So you got to be careful about pissing them off too. So there was a lot of like, okay, what are we doing with these guys? And they weren't doing anything, because it was either put them on TV and they win all the time, or, you know, just not have them win, or just not have them wrestle. And it was really difficult. So something is definitely coming down the pipeline. I think, I think you've mentioned this, there's probably a very good chance they end up wrestling at Wrestle Kingdom and losing those titles just to get them off of them. And then, like you said, AAA doesn't care. So as long as they're just not totally losing all the time, it doesn't really matter if they have those titles or not. So
exactly,
it's going to be interesting. It's a good way to get them kind of out of the tag title picture for a little bit. You know, I know they did just lose to the Acclaim straight up as well. So that works too, to keep them out. But now like we said, they've had 2 straight AEW tag losses. Obviously, other teams are going to shoot up the power rankings, and I'm sure they'll still be top 5, but they're not going to get a title shot anytime soon, which is fine. Okay. After that, we had the vignette that Danny mentioned earlier of Jeff Jarrett and Slapnuts, with Sanjay offbeat rapping to the Acclaim's theme to hype up their match against the Acclaimed on Friday. It was funny. It was funny. The bars were pretty funny. It was purposely bad, but it made it good. So I actually kind of liked it.
It's so crazy to think that in 2022, Jeff Jarrett is the shot in the arm a team needed to, to feel more legit. And thank you, Double J. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is kind of weird. But I think now also too being able to play off the Acclaimed opens up a lot for a lot of teams.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Sanjay being like, hey, like I'll just rap is phenomenal. And you couldn't do that with any other team. So it works out really well. Okay, after that, we had the in-ring confrontation between Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Tony Schiavone introduces the biggest boss, Rick Ross, in like the whitest way possible, and to the point where Taz and Excalibur were making fun of him on commentary. And then he invites Keith Lee to come out. And by the way, both of like the hey, come out, guys stuff was really, really awkward.
Yeah.
So Keith Lee comes down, Rick Ross says hi, and then Rick Ross calls for Swerve to come out, and then he doesn't. And then Rick Ross turns to Keith Lee and calls him a big motherfucker. And then Swerve keeps making Keith wait. And then he finally comes out and then just says a bunch of nothing. It was like just talking a bunch of confusing shit about not wanting to do things on Keith's time, even though AEW scheduled this for you, so it's not on his time. And also, too, you're the one making him wait. Like he showed up. Whatever. It didn't make a bunch of sense. And Rick Ross just kept yelling about Swerve being a legend while he was doing it. It was very confusing. And then Swerve finally gets to his point, saying that Keith, he can't keep his eye on the tag titles. He can't keep his eye on his health. So he better have eyes in the back of his head. And then as he said that, like Rick Ross was behind him and like pointed at eyes in the back of his head, which is kind of funny. And then some like random white guy just comes out of nowhere and jumps Keith Lee from behind.
Parker Boudreaux is not some random white
guy.
Okay,
in my defense, I had never seen him before, and I couldn't understand what the fuck Excalibur was saying. It was Parker Boudreaux.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Which is interesting because Parker has been a part of Ari Davari's team.
Oh, he's that guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, the guy that everyone was saying in NXT was like the next Brock Lesnar. And then he just got himself all tatted up and ruined any visual connection to Brock Lesnar that he had.
Well, I mean, tattoos, Brock Lesnar. Come on. But I see your point. Whatever. It was weird. I was just because everything before it was disjointed. And then unless you watch Dark and Elevation, like I don't really. Random white guy just jumps Keith Lee. And I apologize to Parker Boudreaux, but when you don't watch all the content, that's what happens. So anyway, Keith Lee is able to fight him off, and then he starts walking at Swerve, and then another random white guy comes up and jumps Keith Lee from behind, and Lee's fighting him off and doing okay, and then Boudreaux comes over and they take him out while Rick Ross is just screaming about "We making history" in the background. Rick Ross then announces that Maybach Music has a partnership with the Mogul Affiliates, which is Swerve's new team. And then Swerve hit, honestly, an awesome move where they laid Keith Lee out on the steps. They put a cinder block on his chest, and Swerve hit the Swerve Stomp off the top rope into the cinder block and just completely took out Keith. So this was a mess.
Yes, it was.
The end was good, but Rick Ross had no idea what the fuck he was doing outside of yelling. And I now know who Boudreaux is, but I don't know who this other guy is. They couldn't figure out the name of the team because Rick wouldn't say it, and they just had to read the t-shirts. It was just an absolute fucking mess.
For guys as talented as Swerve and Keith are, this was weird. It was weird, right? It was weird. I don't think you needed all this extra. Like, I'm fine with Swerve leading a group. I think he was great with Hit Row in WWE and NXT. I'm cool with him leading a group. I don't necessarily know that Parker Boudreaux and I don't know who that other gentleman was. I'm sorry, but
they didn't know on commentary. I don't
think I ever heard a name being said.
And like he was all like face tatted up and stuff. And honestly, I meant to look it up and I forgot, and I could try, but like
I get it. And
completely random dude.
Bottom line, I'm skeptical about this one. I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt, but I'm a little skeptical, and I'm gonna ask a question that I don't know if I'm stupid for asking. The cinder block spot, wouldn't that theoretically hurt the shit out of your feet when you do it.
Yeah, not only that, like you could really like roll your ankle or fuck up. And I know it's
Right?
probably not a real cinder block, but
Oh,
like
of course not.
in
But
kayfabe.
if I'm gonna believe the kayfabe of it all, aren't you like busting your feet and ankles by doing that jump?
Oh yeah, once 100%. Like
It's a silly spot as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, you can kind of say that for a lot of spots involving weapons. Like when Kenny did the "You Can't Escape" with the trash can, like he's also landing on the trash can, so
Fair
it hurts.
point.
But you can also say that because it's his momentum slamming the trash can into Pac,
Yeah.
it's going to hurt Pac more.
Exactly.
So this is one where, like in kayfabe, I guess that's the point they're trying to make. Like, oh shit, he broke the cinder block over him, but it's not like he put any momentum into the cinder block. Like all of this, the cinder block is at rest, and I'm trying to remember my physics class from high school here. No, it doesn't work like that. So I don't.
Right,
I don't know.
feel a little
it was
validated
weird
now, so thank you.
Yeah, it was. I understand what they were going for. It looked cool as fuck. But yeah, and if you actually sit down and think about it for more than 5 seconds, it doesn't make all the sense in the world.
Well, I'll try not to be cruel to it, but I don't know. This didn't really hit the way I would have liked for it to hit. It wasn't a dud, but it wasn't great. So I'm sticking around because I love Swerve and I love Keith Lee. After that, I don't know how long they've got my attention.
I am currently on like the post thread for this segment, and no one knows who the fuck this guy is.
All right, I feel better then.
Nobody knows. Somebody called him Cinderblock Jones though, which is pretty funny.
For a second, I thought it was Sawyer Fulton from NXT and then Impact, but Fulton was never this tatted up.
I mean, dude had face tats, right? I saw that correctly.
Yeah. I don't know who this could be. So I hope they clarify very soon, but they, again, like Tony Khan just addressed this whole, oh, I'm just going to debut guys and assume people know who they are. But I think this might be the biggest reach I've seen so far with AEW in terms of hoping we know who somebody is. Unless we aren't supposed to know, unless it's supposed to be a mystery.
Yeah, which is incredibly rare nowadays. Like, even somebody knew who Action Andretti was.
Yeah.
Like, you'd be like, oh, I seen that guy on Dark. Or, like, oh, I saw that guy in an indie show. No one knows who this guy is yet.
The last time I could remember something like this was when Braun Strowman joined the Wyatt family. Because Braun, like, he wrestled like once or twice in NXT, but he was a relatively unknown entity.
But even then, people had seen him in NXT. Like Reddit was like, oh, yeah, no, he's this guy from NXT. Like he had a couple of matches. They mostly just been keeping him in the PC. This guy is a complete enigma.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I want to believe he's actually with Rick Ross, which is why nobody knows who he is.
I saw somebody be like, oh, it's just a random fan who jumped the barricade and just decided to roll with it.
He just happened to be wearing the right t-shirt for this.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. It could be like just one of Rick's guys and they just brought him in and they don't actually have a full-blown like faction yet. But
that would be weird.
Yeah.
That would be weird.
Yeah. Like that wouldn't really make sense. You'd be like, oh, yeah, this is Rick Ross's like, body man. And he'll be here as part of the joint venture between Mogul Associates and Maybach Music. Like,
I'm just going to put it out there. Mogul Associates isn't a great name.
No.
Like, I understand the associates aspect because that's like, it builds off of the promo he cut like a week or two ago about not having friends or family in wrestling, but he has associates. That makes sense, but it's a weird mouthful. Mogul Associates is a weird mouthful.
Yeah, it doesn't flow very well, and because like I get the mogul part too, like that's a big thing of Rick Ross's, and then I know Swerve has said previously, like promos, he's like, like I'm out here trying to be a mogul, like that's a rap thing in general, honestly. Yeah. So like I get the play, it is just it's just odd sounding.
Yeah.
All right. So after that debacle. We then had a promo package for the $300,000 Battle Royal on Friday. There's like a whole big name for it. It's like the Three Kings 300. I don't know. Anyway, we got two great things out of this. One, the best friends talked about what they were going to buy with the money. Trent said he's going to buy a house for his mom, and Trent, that's going to be a really shitty house with $300,000. So,
well, 1/3 of $300,000.
Yeah. Chuck said he's gonna get a chainsaw for his mom, and Orange said he's gonna get a house for Trent's mom. Then after that, we had the Dark Order saying what they were going to do the money, and they said they're going to split all of it evenly between all of them. So that's Uno, Silver, Reynolds, and Little Brody, and that's it. And that makes me sad. Hangman is also there with them, and Reynolds politely asks Hangman to not get involved. And Hangman's like, why? And Silver's like, because we know you love Battle Royals, dude. Like, we want to do this on our own. And Reynolds is like, well, Moxley's going to be in it. And Hangman's demeanor completely changes. And he's like, oh, when is it? And Reynolds like, Friday. And he's like, oh, okay, guys. Like, you guys got to go over strategy. I'm out of here. And just hightails it out. So hopefully he doesn't fuck over the Dark Order. They've lost enough friends. That would suck.
But I don't think, even if he does screw them, but like even if he does unintentionally screw them, I don't think they'd ever abandon him. But I think it might actually just lead to the Dark Order disbanding entirely at this point.
I'd be so sad.
At this point, I almost need it to happen because we're just holding on by threads at this point.
I know.
I think they're only not doing it because they don't want to do it. You know?
Yeah, but I mean, at this point, like, even if you're only doing it for like Brody Jr., like you took his favorite wrestler out of it. Like,
yeah, what's the point at this point?
Like, you just don't. I don't want to say don't hold it there for the kid, like, because that sounds really bad. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I also think Brody is smart and
he gets it.
He's a child, but like he understands and loves wrestling enough that I think he understands that if it's time for them to go, he'd be fine.
Yeah, he gets it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, obviously, because I mean, I don't think they would turn Preston heel unless he would be like, yeah, no, it's cool.
Yeah.
But, or at least explain. Anyway,
we are discussing
I know.
The
no,
I'm a child.
I know, but I know. I'm just more upset about the Dark Order, man.
I am too.
They were my favorite thing, and the bits on BT were phenomenal. And it's the end, or at least the tail end of a very good era of a faction, and it's sad.
I agree, but be happy we had it. You know, be happy we had it as long as we had it. And they were, I don't want to say they served their purpose, so it's okay for them to move on, but they did have some great moments along the way. I think the biggest shame is that they could have held some title at some point. Yeah. And outside of Brody holding the TNT title, they just never did. They could have won the trios. They could have at some point, I think you could have put the tag titles on Uno and Grayson, or even
the Beaver
more
Boys.
Likely the Beaver Boys.
Yeah, 100%.
So
especially when Johnny started really getting over
hot.
On BT. Yeah,
I agree. So it's a shame, but at the very least, maybe this means something good is going to come for the Beaver Boys outside of the Dark Order.
Yeah,
and Uno is the only one I'm worried about, if I'm being really honest. Like, Beaver Boys could just be the Beaver Boys. I don't know what Evil Uno does on his own.
Yeah, it's tough. And I'm sure they'll keep him around, or at least I think they will, because he's a really good ambassador, like brand ambassador for them. He does all their video game stuff. So I'm sure, I have a good feeling they'll just end up keeping him around, even if they do split everything up. But yeah, trying to figure out what the spooky cult guy does without the spooky cult is a little difficult to figure out.
It's a tough move.
Not exactly anywhere you could go laterally. So what are your qualifications for this job? Well, I used to run a cult.
Even though my name is number 1, I was technically the number 2 of the group.
Tell us about, at least he has management skills. Upper management skills.
And he's got experience. That's what we need in today's market.
Yeah.
Experience.
All right, so that was Dynamite. It's the Holiday Bash. I enjoyed this show. Like I said, the Strickland thing was weird, and the Mox match wasn't great, but I think the rest of this was really good. And another post Ring of Honor show in the bag, and it's starting to feel a little bit more like the old Dynamite.
I agree. The vibe of the show is changing for the better. And we know come January, we're going to have a different visual representation of the show. It's been widely reported now that AEW Dynamite is going to see an overhaul in how it looks. Rampage as well. So I think we're in for a good future. You know, visual differences, storyline differences. We're going to be getting a new show here, and I'm excited. What was interesting about tonight was there was good wrestling, but at the same time, it was very storyline heavy. Lots of segments. I think tonight was a segment night as opposed to a wrestling night, but the matches we did get were good.
Yeah, I enjoyed almost all of them. 2, 3, I'm counting them out. And 4. Yeah, we only had 4 matches. But I mean, like you said, 3 out of the 4 of those were good. You know, we had the Bucks match and the women's title match, which were both of which were phenomenal. The FTR Ass Boys match was good, but that was even more of a storyline thing. Like that served a purpose. And then the Mox Martin match was more just to set up for Friday. So like whatever ends, just make Mox look like a vicious SOB. But that's pretty easy to do. So like you said, very segment heavy, but enjoyable. And it's nice to see the show so less congested. And I think I said that last week too. But when everything can just kind of stand on its own and not be infiltrated by like 3 other storylines, because we got to make sure we get the Ring of Honor stuff in there with the AEW stuff. It's way nicer. It's a lot less dizzying, you know, to an extent. So I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying the show. Hopefully this new direction keeps this pattern, so to speak, of the way Dynamite goes. But because I feel like the direction is going to be more visuals than the actual booking of the show. Yeah. But if the booking of the show remains like this, I will be very happy.
I'm right there with you.
All right. So that pretty much wraps things up here for us at the Market Down Podcast. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. We will have an episode coming out in the next couple of days, so you can check that out, going over some of the news of the weekend, whatever. Be sure to also check us out on our social media pages. They are all in the description below. Instagram, and if you go to Instagram, James, did you post any of the stuff from the House of Glory show? I know you were on stories. Did you post any?
Yeah, we had a lot of stuff in the stories. In the next couple of days, I'll be making actual posts just to share the experience. It was a great show, guys. Always remember to support your local indie. And the stars that you get to watch at these shows could be the stars of the big companies tomorrow. Yeah. So
plus you get to
wrestling.
Plus you get to see some big stars too sometimes. Like wasn't Kenta there?
Kenta was there. Nick Aldis was there. Lindsay Dorado was there.
The Briscoes, obviously.
The Briscoe brothers were there. They Masha Slamovich from Impact was there. They had a nice group of guys and girls there for the show. And of course the talent that is HOG faithful were great as well. Can't overhype, or I can't hype the main event enough. And I got involved in the main event unintentionally, so that was fun.
John Cena guy is back,
right? Invading House of Glory. So, yeah, guys.
Yeah, like I said, go to Instagram. James will be putting out a bunch of that content in the next few days, so you can check that out. Got Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok as well. And before we go, I just want to wish everybody a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Festivus is on Friday, and I got a lot of problems with you people, and you're going to hear about it. But you can hear that all on the podcast. So whatever you celebrate in the next coming days, please enjoy it. Eat, drink, be merry. Don't drink too much. But no, screw it. Drink. Who cares? We've had a
just don't drive.
Yes, just don't drive. Like Danny says, don't drink and drive. So for the departed from the show, like he left earlier, he's not dead. Danny Hernandez and head elf James Casanti. My name is Santa Claus. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you here next time on the Market Down Podcast. Have a good night, everybody.